Hello and welcome to Peace Learning Parenting. I'm Dr. Nelly Farnoody-Zahiri, and today's topic will be discussing the effects of marital discord, how parents' argument can affect children's wellness and well-being. The issue of marital conflict has been one that has been long-standing, leading to high percentage of divorce today, over 50% in some countries, and some areas over 60 and 70%. And we know that divorce rates have a direct relationship with poverty, the stress that children absorb in their environments, their educational environments, and so forth. So how can we dedicate or pay attention or have more of an intention in early prevention and helping our children, safeguarding them really from the impact that conflict resolution or arguing in front of our kids and so forth could really give our children an environment, a blissful environment versus an environment where there's tension and stress, and children don't really get to see how parents work through their issues and conflicts. So I thought today we'll dedicate the hour to discussing this topic and going to one of the leading experts in the field of relationships and how to repair when there is a conflict in family, mainly between mom and dad. So watch the first clip with us, Dr. Gottman, and his expert opinion as it relates to marital discord.
67% of couples, almost 70% of couples, when a baby arrives, and these are normal couples, regular people, are having this huge drop in relationship happiness in the first 3 years of the baby's life. Hostility increases between them. They're more irritable. They're more depressed. They're sleep deprived. They stop talking to each other. Sex goes to zero, essentially. And there's a real deterioration of relationships. And that, in turn, has a huge impact on the baby's emotional development. And if we can change that, we can really change babies. We can change babies' temperament. We can change their neurological development, their language development, their cognitive development. They're calmer. They're happier. They smile more. They laugh more. They cry and fuss less. If you change that, that cradle, the relationship between parents. That's the secret.
The secret is in changing the cradle, creating an environment that has happiness, that has repair of conflict, that when we do have an argument, all families have arguments, and it's totally natural. But just being mindful of working through the conflicts, not leaving things unfinished, especially in front of our children. And so paying attention to perhaps shifting from a more aggressive style of communication to a more non-violent way where we're really listening and paying attention to each other's needs and working through and trying to come up with resolutions, because children, especially during the first 3 years, as we see, as Dr. Gottman made a reference to the level of conflict rising up so high because it's adjustment, transitioning in the first early years, and the children actually being most vulnerable at this stage because of those mirror neurons and the way the brain is developing. And so perhaps through a more conscious way, a more mindful way of perceiving how we as parents are responsible to help our children, guide them through these early years and navigating through conflict and conflict resolution, repairing the relationship, and so forth. Now, Dr. Gottman also gets into comparing the masters and the non-masters of relationships, how those who are masters in relationships are able to repair quickly, and the ones who don't actually end up divorcing and experiencing more marital conflict. So watch the second clip and we'll come back.
The masters are repairing things effectively, so that we think that what's going on is that, in a good marriage, people have arguments that are kind of crummy arguments, and and they're and they don't follow communication rules, and they say mean-spirited things, and they get defensive, and they get critical, and they get desperate and upset, and they stonewall, and they do all this stuff. But at some point, they have a conversation where they recover from it. They can talk about it, and they can repair it. And so what we want to suggest to you is really, that's really what the major goal ought to be, is how do you fix things? How do you make your next conversation on this problem area better than your last one? How can you repair it? And so for a lot of years, we were looking at the repair attempt itself. How do people try to make it better? You know, like a repair attempt might be, gee, I don't think either one of us is really listening to the other right now. Maybe we should try again. Or a repair attempt might be, you know, this isn't really what we're supposed to be talking about. We're getting off on a tangent. Or a repair attempt might be, I need a break. Or a repair attempt might be, you know, I'm sorry. I really wish I hadn't said that. You know. And we were looking at the repair attempt and how it was said, and we found that we could not predict the effectiveness of repair from the nature of the repair attempt. And in fact, some people were making repair attempts in a beautiful way. It could have been written by a social worker, and you know, and it was failing. And other people were making repair attempts in this real clumsy way, and it was successful. You know, I remember this one case where this guy who was a chemist, and he and his wife were talking about the fact that because of the nature of his work, he doesn't know exactly when he's coming home for dinner. He has these experiments going on at work, and she said, well, the kids get hungry, and you know, and they don't want to start dinner without you, so they get irritable, and I have to put up with the irritability. And he said, well, why don't you feed him a snack? And his wife gave him a look like, what do you think I am, a moron? Of course I feed him a snack. She went like that, and he realized he needed to make a little repair. So this guy was wearing a red bow tie, and he went. That was his repair attempt. This big, stupid grin, you know. And she started to laugh, and the repair attempt was effective, you know. I mean, it changed the way they were going. They weren't in this sort of negative downward spiral. So for years, we were looking at what makes repair attempts effective, and we didn't find any answers until we started looking at the person receiving the repair attempt, right? And what made the difference was really how much emotional money in the bank they have with that person. So in other words, my repair attempt with Julie is going to work well if I've really been a good friend to her, you know, especially lately. If I've been really putting emotional deposits in the bank account that we have. And I've been, you know, been doing nice things, I've been kind, you know, I've been understanding, you know, I've been there for her when she needs me, all those kinds of things. That determines whether she's going to accept my repair attempt. And if I've been kind of crummy and disrespectful to her, you know, and not a very good friend, then, you know, that repair attempt's going to fail. So it started us really looking at the quality of the friendship.
So as you see, Dr. Gottman talks about the emotional bank and how important it is to keep your savings high, to deposit, make those emotional deposits on a regular basis in your relationship. So date nights, yes, very important. Or if you're not doing date nights, other activities that bring you close together and elevate the currency, the emotional richness, the wealth between you and your partner, because that, at the end, is what helps you repair perhaps more successfully. And so the energy you bring into the relationship, being mindful and being aware, being conscious of your style of communication, your compassion, really, and talking about the 5 C's of peace learning, how compassionate you are towards your spouse and vice versa, and how you work together, you cooperate together, and working towards the same goal and bringing that blissful environment, the peaceful environment or peace learning environment to your children, which is an investment for you and your family and the future.